And welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from thenextreel.com.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We are talking about Jon Favreau's 2008 film, Iron Man. And returning with us one last time, we are joined by Lorraine Dahm-Milligan from Legible Scrawl. Hey, Lorraine.
Hello.
Well, it might not be the last time, Andy. I mean, you don't have a downer.
There's a lot of Bucky to get through in the Marvel Cineverse.
There's a lot of Bucky.
I see. Yep, right. Hey, before we get started, we should find out a little bit about you and your Iron Man history. Were you a fan of the comic books? What's your connections with the film?
Originally, very little. I never saw it in the theater. My husband is a comics geek, likes both DC and Marvel, and I had to go with him to see Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And I saw the movie and absolutely loved it. And
so that was the first one you saw?
Yes. So then I went through and watched everything and caught up.
That's awesome.
And then I did start reading comics after that, but mostly Hawkeye and some Winter Soldier comics.
Gotcha. The more recent Hawkeye?
I read the Matt Fraction run, and then I just started on the run immediately after that one.
There's a lot of good stories out there, so it's nice to see. Marvel really, they weave a lot of interesting stories in all of their comics.
Yes.
Well, today we are digging into minute 16, which starts with Tony being disagreeable and ends with Tony toasting to peace. We finally find out what Tony was saying, Pete.
That's how Dad did it.
Was it satisfying?
That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. I love it. I love it so much. This is that bit of machismo, like he is about to unleash hell on the planet because he's just shooting rocks. And I find it enormously gratifying because there is nothing that sort of gets that testosterone up like seeing the unabashed use of this kind of firepower. And I am a peaceful person. And yet when I see it on screen like this, I get very excited. It makes me feel like I'm 15 years old again. Well,
they do a great job with it. The one thing that I've been noticing more as I watch this minute over and over and over again is when you get that shot of the Jericho coming up right over the mountain and you're up kind of in the helicopter shot coming down with it, your attention is mostly focused on the Jericho because it's splitting up. But if you look at the mountain below, there are an awful lot of roads and trails, and it makes me really worry about who's out here right now. Because this is not the place to be with your goats at the moment.
No.
Do you know what? So we don't know about the goats. That's really true. And this thing, when it hits that hero shot at 45 seconds, 44 seconds in the minute, I mean, it's just massive. I don't know. What do you think the scale is of just how wide the swath of destruction is against that mountain? Is a mile? More?
I'd say at least a mile, yeah.
I think you can get away with it if you look, I'm looking at these roads and villages. They seem like the roads in front of this hillside are like weapons testing roads. Like if you look at a weapons testing ground, it's full of roads. Like they drive out on these things. And so to allow me to sleep at night after seeing this movie and feeling so good about this raw display of power, I have to remind myself, I'm sure it's just the roads on the base and there are no sheep or people.
It's not the roads on the base. They're out in the Kunar province. They're more than 3.5 hours away from Bagram Air Base.
But I mean, it's got to be a weapons testing facility. It has to have been vetted. Please, Andy,
I would like to think that. I would like to think that. It does make me worry, though. Why do they drive so far to do this weapons test? Why don't they do somewhere close to the base? Who knows? You're right. Maybe they found a patch where they're like, okay, let's requisition this land. We'll use this to test our weapons. But then again, it seems like maybe it's hostile territory anyway because the 10 rings are operating here.
Right. Maybe that's what they were secretly doing. My challenge is a little bit different. My challenge is immediately after this when you look at the as he opens up the cooler of booze but in the background of the scene, you see this range of mountains that are still standing proud. I mean, it feels like they're using the same model without having it leveled.
I don't know if it's leveling the mountains, because it's what it seems to be hitting is all the foothills.
No,
Below the
not the high mountains. It's the low, the foothills that get hit, and you see that immediately behind the cooler, and then behind that is the high mountains that obviously they're going to take more to take down. They'll come back and hit those later.
Yeah.
As someone who knows next to nothing about weapons, I had thought that the purpose of that weapon was the sort of not so much take down a mountain, but take down everything on it because of all the smaller fireworky portions. And so it didn't bother me to see the mountain still standing there, but you would think it would just be wildfire, even though there's not that much vegetation.
Or even just changed, right? That just feels like the landscape should be,
smoldering.
Wrong.
Maybe a few fires.
Some more dust. Still. I don't know. I want to see some residue of the fact that they did unleash a hellscape on this set of foothills, and I don't see that as they're toasting.
So not enough damage.
Not enough damage. Yeah, right.
That's what you need.
It's interesting you brought that up, because in my notes I have one of the things I like about Marvel is that they do tend to show that sort of collateral damage. And what I had liked about the scene was all the army people getting their hats blown off.
That was such a nice touch.
They do very good, nice touches like that, but I guess I was focusing on the micro instead of the macro.
It's all about the foothills, Lorraine. It's all about it's GAIA. They just this was a shot to the heart at GAIA.
Oh,
so funny. I love the shot that you brought up of everybody getting their hats blown off, because is clearly a shot that the actors were just completely prepared for, because they were going to get blasted by a very powerful hit of wind. And it cuts right as all of their stuff's getting blown off. But really, if you freeze frame on it, they all have their eyes closed already. Like, they are all prepared to be blasted by this fan hitting them. It makes me laugh to watch it now.
I hadn't frozen it, but you're right. Except for that poor guy in the back whose eyes are wide open, and I think he just gets slammed with dust in his face.
Sand.
Yep.
But even better is the shot immediately after that, right? Where it cuts to, the hat gets blown off in the close up, and then you have Tony with his arms spread out, and he's getting knocked off balance. And they caught that hat in the air, flying over the rows of soldiers.
Yeah, it really goes back there.
It was great. So funny.
You sort of wonder where Tony had tested this weapon prior to trying to sell it.
That's a good point.
Where does one do that? Again, at the weapons testing grounds with no sheep.
Weapons testing grounds,
right.
Absolutely.
Yes. No sheep,
right.
No one
Completely
in the foothills.
Vetted, totally safe. Yes.
The foothills have flak jackets.
That's right. Just outside of Los Angeles, where no one lives.
Yeah, and there's not a fault line.
Yeah, right. Yeah. don't hit these around the San Andreas. So we don't ever see Jimmy, Pratt, or Ramirez anywhere in this crowd, which disappointed me a little bit. As I was looking through, I was like, we've got to have our three people from the Fun V at the beginning. They've got to be in here somewhere.
Right.
No, but they're not decision makers. They're just...
Yeah, I know. They're probably back with the Humvees, just sitting
hanging with
there.
the Hummers.
Yeah. I feel bad for them a little bit. They're not going to get any of the booze.
I don't think those are the guys you want drinking. I'm just saying, those aren't the guys you want drinking on the job.
Don't drink in Humvee.
Right? Never drink in Humvee.
It just gets worse. The more we talk about it, it's just a terrible situation.
It's a terrible situation.
No more war.
What's interesting in the script, this scene starts with Tony actually firing an NRF 425 machine gun. And I looked online to find what that is. And the only things that popped up were like Nerf guns. And I'm like, well, there's got to be something else other than these Nerf guns. But maybe that is what he was shooting. Maybe he's just sitting there shooting Nerf guns out there. I really had no idea.
That's some very good special effects for a Nerf gun.
Yeah, well, he's playing with those, and then he does the whole Jericho missile test. So this booze box, though, I have to say, I really love it. And I love the fact that, if you spend $5 million or $500 million, then he'll throw that in.
I know
Nice
that's
touch.
a nice touch, right?
It's just him being extra again. Like he brought a
Yeah.
portable bar to a missile test in Afghanistan.
But let's just add, like, what do you think the portable bar actually costs him? You know what I mean? What's the overhead on that bar for a $500 million weapons purchase?
He's making out like a bandit.
It's a drop in the
Really
bucket.
is.
Actually, all the profit's probably in the booze.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Yeah.
it depends on what booze he stocks it with.
It's all watered. You know, it's Tony.
I love, though, that through the series so far, I mean, we're 16 minutes in the movie. We already have a number of elements that really kind of point out the alcohol problems that the Tony Stark character has had in the comics. And this is another great bit. I think that works really nicely. The booze that we have in here, there's on the left, you've got a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue Label, Johnny Walker Black Label, and I think that it was a Jose Cuervo tequila, which seems like a weird choice, but that would be sandwiched between those other two. And then the bottle on the right is a much fancier one. It's I don't even know how you say this. Lafroig? I don't know. It's like Celtic or something. Lafroig. It's 1987 Old Malt Cask Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Just recently, a bottle of this was February, was auctioned for 160 pounds, which is about $215. So it's a pricier Scotch, and this is I assume that this is what Tony is drinking at the beginning of the film, but I'm a little unsure because what's strange about this booze box that opens up as it rises, you've got 9 martini type of glasses of varying sizes, and then in the front there are 2 pre-filled glasses. One is his glass of Scotch, and then the other is a glass of, I don't know, some dark liquid or something. I just found that so strange that there's 2 glasses that are already ready for him, I guess.
Right? And was it shipped that way? Like he snuck over and poured himself a glass and then put it back and locked it up and then did the weapons demo.
And then is it watered down now because it had ice?
Because of the ice? Oh, it's not good planning, Tony.
I was thinking that he had to, like before, while everybody was getting the missiles set up, he came over here and casually opened it and poured himself a drink. He probably already had a drink.
Yeah. That maybe it was his plane drink that he's been just constantly refilling from the plane, and he just put it there to keep the dust out of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that.
Who brought it as well? I mean, did the flight attendants bring it down?
They're standing just slightly out of frame.
Yeah.
And they've delivered the booze.
Hot towel.
In fact, they're probably with Jimmy and Ramirez and the other guy. They're probably all hanging out.
There you go.
Man, it's an interesting scene, and then of course the scene ends with Obi calling Tony. Okay, so we can talk about this more a little bit next time, because it really ends. I mean, we see that Obi calls and Tony pulls out his little funky flip phone, answers it, and we hear Obi start saying his name, and then it cuts off. That's the end of the scene. But Obi's in bed. So if Obadiah is in bed and he says, he couldn't get to sleep until he found out what was going on. Oh, shoot, this is tomorrow's minute. See?
Yeah, you've done it again.
I'm doing it again.
As far as we know,
Conjecture.
Obadiah is in bed.
Yeah.
As far as we know, Obadiah is in bed. That's all we know.
And he probably would have trouble sleeping because this is such an important sale.
Right.
Well, and we do know that from LA to this area of the world, it's about 11 and a half hours different in the time zones. So if Obadiah is in bed and he's up, I don't know, somewhere between, say, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., right?
Okay.
So that would put, if we're, say, just 12 hours different, that'd be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that would be kind of the window of time that we'd be working in. So I think it still could work, the times we were talking about yesterday.
Wait a minute. So we're still sticking with, what time is it in Afghanistan for Tony?
Well, I don't know if we're sticking with it, because you're right, because the sun does feel more like a noon time sun, maybe 2.
And if that's the case, then Obadiah being in bed, it's probably middle of the night, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So him having the light on, being, doing his just chilling shirtless in his fancy bed.
I'm going to be shirtless and call Tony.
That's right. That's right. I do that with all of my partners that I work with. I try to do most of my calls at night with my shirt off. Isn't that what? Yeah, I'm sure that's
adds
that's
professionalism to the whole conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's good. I feel like it lets them know really what I'm made of. Anyhow, I feel like the only way, the whole point is, I feel like the only way we can make sense of the time is if they screwed up at the time zone somehow for Tony in Afghanistan by 4 to 6 hours. That's all I'm saying.
Well, but I think that you're right, because let's just for now, and until we can get more of this conversation tomorrow, let's just say that, okay, if Tony is middle of the day, then that means that it's middle of the night for Obadiah. And that I think is going to make sense.
That works.
So now the game is going to backtrack everything to figure out, will it make sense 36 hours ahead of time to place the award ceremony?
Anybody
that's
can
like
figure
2
that
in the
out,
afternoon.
Andy.
Yeah. Oh,
I
can
know
they?
it's you.
Yeah. I'm going to.
Okay.
It's all going to come together.
Yes.
Oh, man. I don't know if we have anything else for this minute. I feel like we've covered it. What do you guys think? Any other little things that we need to hit?
Well, I just wanted to know what Obadiah was wearing on his neck. It's a fairly sizable gauge chain. What is that hanging there?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bullet hanging out in front of it.
Right. There ever any sense that there's something? Because it almost feels so big that they're hanging a flag on it. Maybe we'll see in a future minute. I had never noticed.
This is something that we'll have to pay attention to, like Obadiah's neckwear. It is a really thick chain. You're
it's
right.
A thick chain. I hear your sarcasm, and this coming from the guy who is figuring out time zone math for a 3-minute sequence of this movie. You go ahead, keep talking.
No, it's great. I love it. This is why we do these crazy shows, because the minutia is just fascinating.
If not us, then who? That's all I have to say. This has been so much fun.
Minutia database.
Minutia database. Lorraine, again, so much fun to have you join us. Thank you so much for staying up late.
Oh, I enjoyed this immensely. So thank you for having me.
What is your favorite Marvel film, Lorraine?
Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
Wow. So you started with your favorite.
Yes. So in a way, it was a little disappointing.
Because it was all downhill. You watched 20 other films and they all just...
I've enjoyed the other ones, but that one was just revolutionary on a lot of levels.
Well, we'll have to have you back when we get to that in...
That's right.
7 years or however many years it's going to be.
It's a lot of minutes.
Yes. It's a little ways down the line.
Well, if you need someone to discuss wet Chris Hemsworth, I can certainly pitch hit there as well.
You never know. Again, it's a lot of minutes.
All right. Lorraine, as Pete said, thank you again so much for joining us this last time. We're so glad to have had you.
Thank you for having me.
And remind everybody one last time, where can people find you? I
can be found at Legible Scrawl or their Monday Matinee. And you can also visit my writing blog at ticklelink.blogspot.
And what is their Monday Matinee? What's that show?
It is just a ongoing series. It runs about a year, and then they start a new story. It's fiction, and it's fun.
Oh, fantastic. Very cool. Well, that is it for today's show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. And if you like what we do and want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at patreon.com/thenextreel. Until next time, true believers.